Far out in the uncharted backwaters of the unfashionable end of the western spiral arm of the galaxy lies a small, unregarded yellow sun. Orbiting this at a distance of roughly 92 million miles is an utterly insignificant little blue-green planet whose ape-descended lifeforms are so amazingly primitive that two of them still think doing a podcast called Digital Watches Are a Pretty Neat Idea is a pretty neat idea. These podcasters have, or rather had, a problem, which was this. Actually, this is the solution.
Hey, Jeff, what is this?
Well, Brian, this is the very, very late final podcast episode for the Spoon Too Short, Dirk Gently comic.
Oh my goodness, does it feel late to you?
It does feel late.
I know, and it's all my fault. I do apologize for the insanity.
There's lots of stuff going on. So, but we got it out. Actually, what was going through my mind was, wouldn't it be funny just to stop the whole podcast with one issue left?
Oh my gosh. All of our devoted listeners would be crushed.
It would be hanging on the edge. What happened? How did that story end?
Well, I think we're in the same condition because I think both of us thought that the last issue of this IDW comic book was the last issue of this particular story. And frankly, I'm not even sure what this book is going to be about.
Well, we are soon to find out.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of funny. The cover brings us all the way back to the first issue.
Yes, it does.
Except here, there's two older gentlemen peering through the window.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And it seems to be the murder board. Did he have the murder board last time with the red lines going all through it? I don't believe so. I think he was just playing.
No. He was just playing before with his buddies or his friends that were down on the lawn.
Hooking up a winch, gonna tear down his house, yeah.
That's right. And of course now he's got a thundercloud of hair on his head. I mean,
yes.
And he's wearing a green shirt and a red tie and represented as a small child. Well, maybe not small, but young.
Yes. And it's really kind of interesting because here he is, as a child, playing with all of his toys.
Right.
And just in front of what would be, I guess, his right foot is a seated action figure of himself.
Yep, that's right. That's interesting.
So aside from himself, he's got Mad Luck action figure and a Tamasha action figure. And coincidentally enough, she's flat on her back.
Yes, she is.
And then there's a sexy nurse over on the left-hand side that must be Sally.
Yep, that's Sally. And he's got his rhino friends or stuffed animals.
Yes. And then there's more of like a plastic-looking rhinoceros.
Oh, yeah, that's true, too. Yes.
Laying on its side, so that must be the dead one.
Yes. That means the poor perished rhinoceros.
Killed by the guy in the truck with the machine gun over on the right-hand side. And, of course, we got the cat, Bernice.
Yes, Bernice the cat.
And for some reason, up in the upper left-hand corner, there's a picture from the last series.
That's right. It's a pharaoh with a pharaoh's cap on.
Yes.
And again, we have the flickering myth statement that the legacy of Douglas Adams is still flowing strong.
Yes. What I also find kind of interesting is all of these toys and action figures are sitting or standing or laying on issues 2, 3, and the current of this comic book.
Yes, now is the present. In the future, it'll be the future. but now is the present. Did you see, and I can't even believe it, they're talking about Spaceballs 2?
Yes. Yes. The promo that I heard, Mel Brooks says the fans have spoken, but he's going to make the movie anyway.
Oh, I absolutely love it. I don't know if they could get away with all the things that they did in the past, but some of those scenes, I mean, just hysterical to me.
I am interested to see what a Mel Brooks movie would look like in 2025.
That's right. It's going to be quite different, isn't it? I mean, they've tried different things with History of the World, and I tried to watch it, but it was not really easy to watch.
Isn't History of the World the one with the piss boy?
Yes.
And it's good to be the king?
Yes. Well, those are the movies, but they came out with a TV series recently.
Oh, I have not seen that.
Yes. Now, I don't know how involved Brooks was in it, but they attempted to make it funny, but I don't believe they succeeded.
Oh, all right. I didn't even hear that they did a TV series on any Mel Brooks stuff.
Have you seen that show, Drunken History or whatever?
Yes.
It was kind of like that, you know. They tried to take some of the jokes, but it kind of falls flat, I think.
Okay, so we're going to move to the first page, which is the previously on.
Yes, indeed. And here again, we see the same. Isn't this the same 4 panels we've seen before?
Yes.
Okay. So it starts with a scene of Sally at the hospital with the family without words.
Yep.
And the next shot is Sally again and Dirk talking about this unfortunate situation. And then it moves on to Dirk and Tamasha. And Tamasha is inviting Dirk to Africa. And then there's a shot of Tamasha and Madluck and Dirk discussing their lives together.
Yes.
And then we're back at the hospital with Susan McDuff playing her cello.
And that's when they realize that music
is
a key to this wordlessness.
Right, exactly. Then we see the crumpled up paper given to Dirk by the elephants.
Yep.
Shaped into an alien looking face.
Right.
Then we have the rhino sniffing out the alien presence.
Right. With the orchestra playing.
Yes.
For Madluck and Tamasha.
Yes. And we see the alien presence represented as 2 humanoid bodies sparkling in light.
Right.
And of course, at the bottom of the page, it says, everything is connected.
Right. So we will go on to page 2. And this is our cast of characters.
Awesome.
And there's nobody new. It is Dirk Gently, the nurse Sally Mills, the Kingdom Brown, which is the family at the hospital without words, Tamasha and Madluck, those are the 2 that he travels with in Africa, Bernice the cat, of course, Susan McDuff, who is the cellist, and of course the Kwanzaa tribe, who is the tribe in Africa that has no words either. All right. So page 3. So this page, again, like all the other issues, is starting out with Dirk much younger. He is standing in front of a target with an apple on his head, a pear extended out in his right hand, grapes extended out in his left hand, and he's holding a pineapple between his knees. His hands are out because they are tied to the target so he cannot move them. And it must be some sort of trust game because small little darts have ripped through the grapes and a great big machete was thrown and split the pineapple in half. I have to believe it was a gun that destroyed and exploded the pear in his hand. What do you think?
Yes, it appears to be a gun.
Because it's just, they're gone. There's no weapon of any kind that is visible.
No, none at all.
And then in true William Tell style, of course, there is an arrow through the apple on his head. And the noises that each of those make is rip, whack, fut, thup. in that order.
I love it. Yep. Awesome.
So page 4. Let's see who it was that was trying to gain the trust of Dirk.
Whipping and thucking. On the top of this page, it says, as a child, I really only had one friend. You know who it looks like.
Well, it's more who it sounds like than looks like.
Right, really. I mean, it's just the back of her head, but I can't remember her name now.
Bart?
Bart, yeah.
But Bart isn't the one not being hit. Dirk is the one who's not being hit.
Right, but Bart could not kill someone she wasn't meant to kill.
Oh, true.
She does look like Bart, but we don't know who she is. But she says that it's weird that she can't hit Dirk no matter how hard she tries.
And let's see. So she has an empty scabbard, I guess, on her back from where the machete came out of. Mm-hmm. And she's got a crossbow in one hand and then a rifle in the other. Mm-hmm. I don't see a bow, though. I see arrows, but right. I don't see a bow.
Well, maybe that was for the crossbow. Oh, well, yeah, I do see arrows. Yeah, that's true. There's arrows on top of, in the ground, stuck in the ground next to her.
Right. And crossbows use
have
bolts.
Yeah, they're short. Yeah, I gotcha.
So just to make things more confusing, this is the title page as well. A Spoon Too Short, Chapter 5, Stakeout, Life on Mars. So,
okay, yeah.
How many non-connecting things?
Yeah, exactly. Each of those sentences can be separated and make no sense.
Right, but hopefully they will be connected. So we'll find out on page 5. And they're not going to tell us who that was.
Not at the moment they aren't.
So it appears that the music from the orchestra has actually contained the aliens, and they're wrapped in the music notes being held still. And Dirk has taken this time to interrogate him. And there are a lot of Easter eggs in his questions. And Bryan and I are going to read his questions, and we're going to alternate. And somewhere in the middle, Tamasha is going to wonder what the relevance of those questions are. And I did like his answer in that. So what was his answer about these questions?
It's a holistic interrogation, and it's a dying art.
Yeah. All answers are connected, therefore, all questions are connected. And he does ask a whole bunch of nonsense.
Right. So his first question is, what is the brightest star in the system Caprica?
Does the law of quadratic reciprocity apply in your dimension?
Why are my keys always in the last place I look?
If a woodchuck could chuck wood, how much wood would a woodchuck chuck?
And what is the surface area of a rhinoceros's nose?
What is the significance of 42?
How to handle a woman?
Why have you possessed this man, and why?
And how many stones are there on the beach in Wales?
Why have you stolen these people's voices?
And then the aliens respond, that we can tell you. Why didn't you just ask in the first place? And their answer?
Sex. It's for the sex, of course.
And Dirk says, I knew it.
And Madluck and Tamasha are like, huh?
Oh.
So we'll move to page 6. And it's a double page.
Beautiful double page. Lots of purple on it.
Yes. All right, so on this double panel, the aliens are giving Dirk the answer to his question. So the aliens say, your deductions are correct. We are from a neighboring dimension with 4 dimensions. We call it the 4th dimension.
And then Dirk says, originality's not your strong suit then.
We are connoisseurs of pleasure, of music, and lovemaking. You two are delectable.
And Madluck is blushing terribly, and Tamasha is covering her face.
Kind of looks like she's going to be sick.
Yeah, I know.
When we found a path into your dimension,
And Dirk tries to interrupt and says, about that.
we were immediately drawn by the carnal opportunities offered by your delightful race. So warm, so squirmy, so full of sounds and squeals. We just wanted to eat you all up, suck the marrow from your bones. But not in a cannibal-y way. Nope, just as kind of a oral stimulant.
And then Tamasha, enraged, she says, you sucked out our voices, our ability to communicate as an aphrodisiac? And of course, Dirk, in a smug way, says, yes, solved it. For reals this time.
Right. So we will go to page 8 and 9 because it's another double page spread.
So in this page, we see our three main characters, Dirk, Tamasha, and Madluck, trying to review their situation. And here, Madluck says, I feel so violated, like my whole insides have been scooped out.
And Tamasha adds, with a spoon.
And Dirk says, a spoon too short.
Which obviously confuses everybody.
Yes, it does, everybody, including us.
Yes. So basically he explains, like in the first issue where he was trying to get the yogurt, but he couldn't quite get to the bottom, the aliens can't get everything and they have to leave a little bit left. But don't worry, they can heal and it can all grow back like yogurt because given enough time and fertilizer, it will grow back.
And of course, Madluck is totally confused by all this and looks kind of dumbfounded and continues to repeat, what? What? What?
Right. And then Tamasha gets it and realizes that the fertilizer that makes everything grow back is music.
And then last panel on this page, Dirk says, first, there's the little matter of our prisoners.
Right. So we will go on to page 10. And yet again, another double page.
Again, I have to admit, every one of the double pages on here in this comic book series has been pretty spectacular. They don't hold back,
Right.
which I kind of appreciate.
Yes, they're beautiful pages. The night and day difference between this and the comic book style of the Hitchhiker series is quite different than the comic book style of this.
Yes, you're absolutely right. So on this page, you see a shot of the savannah, and somehow Dirk has come up with a crazy contraption that's going to take his prisoners along with him. In one shot, or in the lower panels, you see kind of a truck that's loaded with all the musical equipment and the entire orchestra. And they're playing music that's keeping the prisoners entangled. And the prisoners are sitting atop another small vehicle that's riding along in this caravan. Tamasha and Madluck are in a different vehicle, kind of directing things as they go.
Right.
But on the top of the page, there's a small 4-panel insert, which is kind of funny. It shows a rhinoceros, and he's thinking to himself, quite a lovely night. And he says, haven't seen Sid in a while.
Oh, man.
Grumpy old bugger. Still wondering where he's got to. And then all of a sudden, he's interrupted in his musings by the music and triumph of the songs that are going by and says, well, now that's unexpected.
Right. So Dirk's done a pretty good job of securing himself to the cab of the truck with, like, ropes connected to 4 points.
Mm-hmm.
As long as he keeps his feet under him.
Absolutely.
All right, so we will move on to page 12. So here's a 6 horizontal panel page, and basically it is the conversation that Dirk is having with the aliens and getting them to agree to leave the dimension and basically don't come back.
Right. And on the first panel, Dirk says, "We have a deal?"
And they say, "We do. Agreed. You release us, and we agree no more." What was that word you used?
Dirk shouts above the crowd, "Poaching."
Yes, that's right. No more poaching.
And Dirk asks, "Where will you go?"
Well, everywhere else, of course. Why do humans always assume theirs is the only interesting world?
Then Dirk continues, "Your passageway, your exit route, your ship."
Nothing as grand as that. Just stop the music and watch us dance. So first, I want to know, why would he trust him?
Right.
I mean,
Doesn't really have that much going on there, does he?
no, I mean, he doesn't have much of a choice, but
Right. That's crazy.
they just keep the band playing forever. They just keep rotating musicians in and out.
That could work.
Yeah. So we'll move to page 13. So it appears that they've stopped the music and they have stopped the vehicles, and the aliens are now on the ground. And what was the question that Madluck just asked?
Madlock says, "Can we trust them?"
So, yeah, at least somebody's thinking that same way.
Mm-hmm.
And Dirk is just explaining that they're creatures of novelty and they're probably getting bored with us by now. And humans in this consumption of communication was just a passing fad.
And Madlock says, "I wish the same thing could be said of Rhino Horn."
Right. And then the aliens start swirling and turning into strands, and they go right back into the rhino nose.
How bizarre, huh?
Yes. And then Madluck and Tamasha are slowly reaching towards each other, hoping that's it.
And they grab hands, and there's a little heart.
Yes.
It's interesting here with this particular scene with the rhino nose and the aliens disappearing into the nose in another dimension. Wasn't that part of the way they described the notes, or the, what do they call that, elevator pitch that was given for the book that Douglas Adams was going to write? Something to do with rhinoceroses and other dimensions through the nasal passages?
You are correct, yes.
So here they are trying to nod to Douglas Adams quite specifically, I think.
Right.
Now, I don't know. We've never actually read anything or saw any letters or any notes of that fact, right? Or was there a little bit of a reference in Salmon of a Doubt?
There was a little bit in Salmon of Doubt when he wrote the letter to the publisher explaining briefly what the book was going to be about, but...
Right.
But that's all we saw.
Right.
And the funny thing is that the next comic after this is a Salmon of Doubt.
Oh, really?
Yes. Where I would have
Oh, my
expected
goodness.
to see the rhino.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Mm-hmm.
But this rhino's not in California.
No, it is not.
Well, back to this issue. So we'll move on to page 14.
And on this page, we see 4 horizontal panels. In the top panel, Dirk is returning home on Kenya Air with another case having been completed.
Yes.
And the bottom 3 panels are about the aftermath in Africa.
Right. And the Nkawa, who finally regained their power of speech, now some days miss the peace and quiet.
And poor Madluck is still trying to continue the impossible crusade.
Page 15. This page also has 4 horizontal panels, and in the top, Dirk is musing about impossible dreams, love, company, and he was happy to pass on his most capable assistant client to Madluck, and he needed her help more than I did.
Mm-hmm.
He says, "Me, I need to get home as soon as possible, because whilst the case might be over, not every mystery was solved." And where's he going?
The London Zoo.
Yes.
And of course, I think the mystery that he's still trying to solve here is on the middle two panels, and that is, why is his frickin' spoon too short to get the bottom of the yogurt?
Yes. And the stewardess / waitress is unhappy with him.
Mm-hmm.
Page 16. So on this page, we are at the London Zoo, and Dirk is in full form of spewing his BS.
Right. He starts off by saying the London Zoo was founded in 1826 by Sir Stamford Raffles. Raffles, amongst other things, also founded the country of Singapore. The London Zoo is by some considerable margin the most interesting of his creations.
And now we see that he's with Sally Mills, and she's saying, so when you called me up and said, do you fancy a day out? Did you mean to call me or a 6-year-old niece? Because she brought her to the zoo.
Exactly. And Dirk, not quite understanding the concern or question, goes on, I don't have a niece, or at least not one I can take to the zoo. Penguins? I love penguins. A perfect non sequitur, right?
Yes.
He says, they're like little posh people trying to do a Monty Python sketch.
And Sally just glares at him.
And wouldn't you?
Yes. In fact, I kind of am.
Oh, I love it.
So on to page 17. So on this page, at the top, we've got Sally and Dirk arm in arm walking through the zoo, and Sally is saying, who doesn't love penguins? And then there's an overview of sort of the sidewalks or the pathways at the zoo, where it's crowds and crowds of people, and there are arrows that are letting you see who's who. So all of a sudden there's a zoomed in on a little kid that says, Mommy, Daddy, come see the tigers.
There's another zoomed in section that shows Sally and Dirk, and Sally inquires of Dirk, wait, is that? And Dirk says, yep, I asked them too. Nice to see them fully restored and having a family day out.
Yeah,
and of course, it's the Kingdom Browns who have been invited to the zoo. And
right.
The wife comes over and gives Dirk a big old hug and says, thanks so much. And she says, I'm sorry again about the nose. And Dirk says, think nothing of it. It's a routine occurrence in my line of work. And then, of course, Sally says, it really is.
Yes.
And we like this as a little Easter egg because, of course, Sally was the one who fixed his nose in Douglas's book.
Yes.
Way back in ancient history.
Yes, so she would know about broken noses.
Yes, we do.
So we'll move to page 18. So Dirk and Sally have made their way over to the rhinoceros enclosure, and they're looking at the rhinoceros, and they're thinking back at everything that has happened. And Sally says, sounds like the case ended successfully for everyone.
And then Dirk replies, well, almost everyone. Sid still ate it. And Mad Luck is still in a gunfight wielding a paperclip. And I still don't fully understand how the communication poachers got into our dimension.
And Sally says, you've helped a lot of people, Dirk. Why not just take this moment, as she reaches for his hand?
And Dirk kind of looks away and says, I need to know what's so special about the inner lining of a rhinoceros's nose.
Sounds like, wait, what?
And then Dirk vaults into the rhinoceros enclosure.
And Sally is yelling at him. Dirk, gently! So, page 19.
So here we are in the enclosure.
Yes.
And our friend Sally is trying to get Dirk to return to her.
Yes.
Dirk is staring into the nose
yeah.
of a rhinoceros.
And the rhinoceros is going, huh? 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 And then just sneezes out all kinds of mucus onto Dirk.
And at that same moment, Dirk becomes quantumly entangled with the snot.
Yes.
And appears to get sucked into the nose of a rhinoceros. And poor Sally Mills is saying, Dirk?
Yeah, she's very unaffected by the fact that Dirk just strung out and went into the nostril of a rhinoceros. So we will find out on page 20 and 21 because it is another double page. So now we have a weird, I don't even know how to explain it. Dirk is looking at a comic book of himself as a kid. Mm-hmm. And Dirk seems to wake up screaming and goes over to the wall when he's a young boy, and he's pounding on the wall, pounding on the wall, pounding on the wall. And in answer to Dirk's thumping, his only friend, who we heard about on the first page, says, "What?"
Then Dirk sort of sniffs.
"Did you have another nightmare?"
"Well, sort of."
"You're such a baby."
And he sniffs again.
"Was it Thor again?"
"No, not this time."
"Then who? The professor guy with the horse?"
No, I don't think so. It's hard to remember, but I think there was a rhinoceros."
"Rhino stones? That's not even a real thing."
"They is."
"What is it then?"
"It's kind of like a big bear, except without hair, and it has a horn."
"A horn?"
"Yeah."
"A bald bear with a horn. Like a unicorn."
"Kinda."
"Doesn't sound real. What else?"
"I don't know. There were people who couldn't speak."
"Grown-ups?"
"Yeah, mainly."
"Well, that makes no sense. Grown-ups always speak. Always. Makes you want to hit them. Were you a defective again?"
"A detective. Yes, in the dreams. I'm always a detective. I solve mysteries. I help people."
So we're going to go to the last and final page, 22, to see how this wraps up.
Mm-hmm.
On this page, we kind of see a cutaway view of the entire hospital with armed guards all over and scary-looking exam rooms or torture rooms, or I don't know what else to call them. And Dirk is continuing the conversation with his friend, and she says, "People don't want to be helped."
And Dirk says, I think they do. Don't you want someone to help us? To take us out of here?
"When it's time for us to leave this place, the doors will just open. You just wait and see. Now, go back to sleep."
And in the bottom two panels of the page, you see Dirk again as a young boy and then Dirk as an adult. And in his young boy stage, he says to himself, "Some nights it seems like I'm still waiting for those doors to open."
And as an adult, he says, "Other times, I know they never will." So this was a dream. They Newharted us.
They Newharted us? Oh, man. Yes. Those Newharts.
Or Dallas.
Yeah, there you go.
Newhart was making fun of Dallas.
That's true. They were. Oh my gosh. And then the bottom of this page, it says, Dirk Gently will return in October in comics and on television.
Oh. So we did these out of order.
Oh, really? I guess
yes.
so.
So the television show should have come after this.
Mm-hmm. Apparently.
Too bad.
And that's funny because obviously the creators of this book at this page knew about the television show. Yes. With our friend Bart.
Right, because they were writing it.
Right, and the implication is that in this scene, of course, it's Bart that he's talking to.
Right.
So
when this comic book came out, Bart didn't exist.
Mm-hmm. But she seems like a fully formed character in the comic book, which is really interesting.
Yes.
Weird, huh? Well, Jeff, now that we've reached the end of this issue, what's next?
Well, I have to say that my best guess is going to be the comic book that I briefly mentioned earlier, which is the third and final Dirk Gently comic book, which is A Salmon of Doubt.
A Salmon of Doubt. That's fantastic. How many issues are in that comic series?
It is a 9-issue series.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. Now, of course, I know that we were slackers, or I should feel more like I was a slacker, because in June we didn't have a bonus episode.
Nope.
But I imagine that we're going to try to slip in a couple bonus episodes here in July. Is that not correct?
Well, I would like to say that is correct. However, I don't know if I want to start the new issue as a bonus episode in the middle. So I think I'm going to make them wait.
Oh.
To get that comic book all the way into August.
Okay.
Not that we won't throw some kind of a bonus episode in talking about other nonsense that we might want to talk about. But the comic book will start in August.
But I do know that we have a long conversation. Well, I'll say it's a long conversation, but we need to tell our fans out there about our recent visits to comic conventions in Philadelphia. And
right.
I'm assuming there's an update from your visit to the play, because you promised a second viewing.
I did go to a second viewing, and I will fill in a little bit about that when we do a bonus episode about conventions and the Dirk Gently play that I've seen for the second time.
Well, I'm really looking forward to that conversation. In fact, just as an aside, I'm still waiting for my commission that I got at that convention, and it's supposed to be coming in July. So
okay,
hopefully I'll be able to share that with you when we talk about that.
That would be great.
So, Jeff, now that we know what's coming up next, what can you tell us?
I can tell you that this is the end.
And, of course, Doug.
Doug.
And, of course, Doug. Doug, I said it again. Damn it. Oh, shoot. I knew recording late was a mistake. Let's try it again.
Well, you've been doing Dirk lately.
Okay.
So
you want me to do Dirk again?
I'll do a little explanation, and then you can do Dirk, and I'll do Sally.
Okay.
I'll do Sally.
Okay,
then,
you do Sally, and I'll do Dirk.
Thank you for listening to this. A new episode is released on the first Thursday of every month. A special thank you goes out to Luke, Max, Greg, and Tim Lesnick for arranging and performing our opening theme. Visit our website at digitalwatchesareaprettyneatidea.buzzsprout.com. While there, you can find links to all of my Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy inspired t-shirt designs. You can contact us via email at digitalwatchespodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on YouTube and Facebook at Digital Watches Are a Pretty Neat Idea. You can message us on Twitter, or should I say X, at Watches Idea. And our Instagram is Watches Idea Podcast.
This has been a Foods for Thought production.